talk about something that happened to me a very long time ago. So why am I talking about it now? Well, I guess it's just like to have a conversation, because technically it can, basically I want to talk about the first time somebody having sex, right? And I think it's really important that we talk about that, because we're just all just like, I'm dreading the moment that my son has to have sex. Like, I'm dreading it, because it takes like so much practice and so much understanding for it to be a beautiful thing. Otherwise, it's really not beautiful. It's really just weird and awkward and just like, ugh. So if somebody stumbles across this video and they've not yet had sex, maybe this will help them. And actually, if somebody's stuck in a cycle of having sex in a particular way, maybe this video will help them. So let's dive in and talk about first time having sex. Okay, here comes my giggles again. Why do I giggle in these subjects for? I think it's because like I have no idea who ends up watching these videos, and it's just like, you know, like when I talk to people, I don't mind, I'm like so open, yeah, but I know who I'm talking to. Whereas I like when I'm filming myself, it's like, who am I even speaking to? And who's listening to this stuff? Anyway, let's dive into the subject, because actually I'm very, very passionate about sexuality. I think I'm passionate about sexuality because, well, I guess it's because how much I like sexual things, and then also because of how like misguided some things are, or how bad some experiences can be. And it's just like, can't we just talk about these things, so then these things just like stop happening in the human race? Like, let's just talk about these things, right? Where do I even start? What is she doing? The dog is outside and she's like playing with the carpet. This is what happens when nobody's watching. She's completely missing. Imagine if she tidies up the carpet once she's done with it. I don't know why she's playing with it. She's just biting it, which is quite sweet, because then she's playing with herself, right? Which might lead to the point of people having to experiment with themselves before they go and experiment with, sorry, the dog comment just led into that. But maybe people should really be experimenting with themselves, because yeah, I started thinking, yeah, I only learned to orgasm when I was 34 years old this year, and I don't know how it's gonna go when I try to orgasm with a man, because like I just feel like it's gonna be a lot of pressure for him to allow me, because I feel like it's gonna take a bit of a while for me to like get to where I need to be for me to orgasm, and then by that time for sure he would have been finished already, right? Especially because like when you're trying to please yourself, I think it turns people on. So then if I'm there trying to please myself, I feel like it will be quite arousing for the man. And now she's gone, she's left the carpet just like that, which I don't know if I am okay with that or not, because she just left it a mess. This is where we all need to upgrade a little bit. She needs to be aware of her behavior. Anyway, so I don't know if it will be fair, and I think it will take a lot of trials for me to be able to orgasm with a man or a penis. Obviously the man has a penis, so I don't know why I just added the penis. And I feel like it would take a few tries without me being successful, because he would finish too quickly and I need a little bit longer. I know that there's like some techniques here of how to like not make yourself come so quick and stuff, yeah, but like when you're very aroused, I think it's very difficult and unfair to expect you to not react to the things that are happening, right? But the point is that with experimenting by yourself, at least then you understand what it is that you're expecting, because then if you go in blinded, not knowing what to expect, I feel like that could even go in two ways, right? It could either like magically, miraculously go great, or of course, and most likely it will go very bad. And the reason why I say that is because I think that sexuality is about connection, right? It's about two people coming into one. And then I don't think that a lot of the time, especially when you're young, I don't think that the intention is for two to become one. I think it's more about, let's try to do this. And look, they're not coming together, are they? And instead, you need to slowly come together and fit slowly to make sure that you fit together. So I don't think that we should rush, especially if you've never had sex before. I don't think you should rush into the experience at all. I think you should really be experimenting. And actually, that's a really good point to make, is that there is a lot of foreplay that can happen before you actually go into the sex. I'm just thinking here in terms of adults, yeah. that is a little bit long, isn't it? Because if you're sitting there and you're like foreplay and you don't go to sex, that's a little bit like, and then there's all the anticipation for nothing. And anyway, let me slow down here because I'm just jumping. So I've pointed out that you should really understand your body, yourself. You should really understand the levels that you want to get to, meaning you know how it feels to have a clitoris orgasm, you know how it feels to have an internal orgasm. And then when you know yourself, then that's when you should then welcome somebody else to get to know you, because then you're helping them to understand your body instead of expecting them to figure out your body when you don't even know your body yourself, right? And that's a little bit unfair. It's not unfair to somebody who's an expert. Of course it's not, right? Because they have already gouged, is that a word? They've already gauged the female body and how like this female's like this female's like that. So then you've got to like, they understand, they have experience and they understand. But if it's somebody who doesn't understand, and actually there are a lot of them even in adulthood who don't understand, then it is a little bit unfair to expect them to get to know something without any type of guidance or any type of like tutoring. And actually that type of stuff makes me angry a little bit, not in a sexual way, but in life, like when people are expected to understand something and they have no guidance on it and they have no teaching on it, and it's like that stuff makes me annoyed. So I guess we can apply it into sex, that people really do need guidance, right? And that's in both sides, because actually a lot of the time when we think about these things, we think about the man not knowing what he's doing, and the woman just like laying there and just like being annoyed. Oops. Being annoyed that she's not being pleased. And actually I'm guilty of this myself, right? That I would be irritated that the man doesn't take his time to arouse me and to please me in my external functions before he goes into my internal functions. And that was actually because I didn't know my internal functions at all, and I thought that my externals were the only ones that I would get pleasure from. Anyway, and actually I would find it quite irritating to sit there and kind of say to him, excuse me, can you please do this? Because then I would just like be put off and I wouldn't even want it anyway, because I want it to be like this type of like surprise and this type of like natural, but yeah, surprise but natural. But having said that, these conversations don't necessarily need to take place while you're having sex, and actually probably not when you're having sex, in my opinion anyway, but other people might be different. But they can definitely, when you're speaking and you're having those like conversations over the phone, or you're like having those conversations and you get to know somebody and you're like, oh my gosh, I really like him, like that's the time to really be talking about these things, because actually it does bring more arousal into the relationship when you are speaking about these things. So I think that we should really be clear and give guidance before you go into these sexual experiences. Otherwise it's like it doesn't fit and it doesn't come together, and it's just, what's the purpose of that? That's just disgusting. And I'm sorry, I've not had a complete awkward sexual experience where it's just like, oh my gosh, I want to die, get me up. And actually, because if I did, I would literally not continue. I'd be like, stop this right now, let's just stop and let's do this. Have I ever done that before? I've done it, but not because it's awkward, just because I got upset about something. So I feel like to avoid these really like scarring, and let's be honest here, these things are scarring for both people. Like if you have like a really bad sexual experience, these things are scarring. Like they make you feel like every other one's gonna be like that. They make you feel like there's something wrong with me. Oh my gosh, I'm so bad at this. And really it's not. It's just because you guys just went crash and that was a fitting. If you go crash, that is a miraculous situation where you fit in together. But a lot of the time you go crash and it's like, ah, that hurt. And you don't want to do that. Instead, you should slowly and surely come together. Anyway, I do feel sorry for the young people nowadays. Not that I speak to them a lot actually, because I don't speak to anybody, let alone anybody my age or anybody's age. I actually only speak to my son. But I have like come across like videos and like maybe programs, and they're speaking in a particular way and they're talking a particular way, and it's really like sad that sometimes for the man, for example, his goal is to bang 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 bang, because he might have the misconception that the end of the inside of the woman is where he needs to reach to, because he thinks maybe I need a big penis, and a big penis means it needs to reach to the back. So then if I'm going to reach to the back, I'm going to bang 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 bang. And then like, obviously that's completely incorrect, and so then it's sad that that's the message that he has. And then the message that she has is that I'm here to be available to the man, and then therefore here I am, I'm available. Okay, now he's banging me. Okay, this is sex. Oh no! It's all very, very sad. Now the reality that should be being taught for these two people is that the man should understand that there is no back place to reach. There's actually a front place to reach, and it actually is more of a rubbing rather than a hitting. Oops. It's more of a rubbing, and then a woman should understand that both people are going to enter this for them both to be sexually pleasured and sexually aroused, rather than her being a puppet and him being a banger. And then when these two are aware of what it is that is going to happen, like the potential of what could happen, then they can go in speaking as they are coming together, and then hopefully having a experience where both of them complete together. And actually, I think that how it happens, you know, when people say they orgasm together, right? I think that what it happens is that the woman already knows how to make herself orgasm, which means then that it doesn't take her that long to orgasm. So then she's on her way, he's still like building up his orgasm, and she's building up her orgasm, like not being interrupted, because the problem with the woman is that if she gets interrupted, it just literally starts all over again. And the man, I'm not sure why the man doesn't have this like problem, like overall, like I know some men do, but like overall a lot of them don't have this problem. They can just like build and not be interrupted, and maybe they can be interrupted, but they know how to like jump back on quite quickly. Whereas the woman, I feel like if she gets interrupted, she just goes into her head. Anyway, I'm not saying that like this is men and this is women, because it could just be like the opposite as well, right? But what I'm saying is that if you're not interrupted and you are building together, and then as she starts to experience the orgasm, the man then reaches that peak of like, oh, she's pleasuring herself, and then it literally ignites the completion on his side, and then they come together. I feel like that might be the way that people can come together. And I do feel like that sometimes, like I get aroused a lot by somebody else being aroused, and it pushes it like much quicker, like the experience or the completion, it pushes it much quicker if I know that somebody's aroused. And I'm only talking here through the external orgasm, obviously not the internal one, because I've not experienced the internal one with a person yet, only with myself. Anyway, so then with that being said, like this whole sexual experience of what the man should be taught, what the woman should be taught, how they can come together, how they can then experience it together and have this moment, I feel like when you do that, I feel like it is a beautiful moment between two people, when you can actually like have this sexual completion and sexual experience together, and then like you have this burst, this orgasm together. I feel like that is like quite a special moment. Even if you don't want to name it special, right? It's the actual act of itself is like quite a big thing that's happening, like because of all of the things that are being released when that happens. Like first of all, the sexual pleasure feels good, so that this sexual feeling and it's pleasurable gets released between the two of you. Then like the vibrations like go all over your body, so that's another thing. And then like God knows scientifically or the see-through world of what then gets released in your brain, right? Like the chemicals and stuff, and then afterwards, how do you feel when you have this completion and you're both completed? Like it must feel quite good. Wow. And actually that reminds me of the very important last step of sex, right? Is the afterwards. And actually I'm gonna finish on this point. I can feel this heartbreak right now. I don't know where it comes from, but I can feel it, right? Where it's like so you have this experience, you come together or separately, or one does and the other one doesn't, which is a lot of the time. And then you come apart, and then this one wants to go and do that thing, that one wants to go and do that thing, and they don't want to be together. And then somehow they come back around together because maybe they want the sexual experience again. but as soon as they have it, they come apart. I don't like that. Wait, let me just slow down here for a second. Because what I'm trying to say is that I feel like the sex doesn't end when the orgasm ends, because I feel like there's a, just like there is a build up to the sex, like the arousal part to the sex, I feel like there's a build down to go your separate ways. Either it's getting on with your day or something. I feel like there's definitely a, you know, there's part one, which is the building up, the foreplay. There's part two, which is the sex itself, and then there's part three, which is the warm down of the experience, right? And I guess what that looks like is probably just intimacy, of like spending time hugging or spending time caressing each other in some type of loving way, or like having like a conversation, or having like a little bit of an emotional personal moment between the two people. I feel like that's definitely something that should happen, right? And again, maybe this is like the education that you need to have before you come together, right? The education of like, okay guys, so part one is this, part two is this, part three is this. Educate yourself in all three parts of what's expected, what's going to happen in all three parts, and then you can come together and start talking about what it is that you like in part one, part two, part three, before you go into it. And then you're very knowledgeable and guided when you come together to experience part one, part two, and part three. But part three, I feel like it's just as important, because I guess then your mind can like accept what just happened. Your mind has the time to process what happened, because if you come away too quickly, then your mind doesn't have time, and then it could start concluding things that are unhealthy, like, oh, that meant nothing, or oh, that was just an itch that needed to be scratched, or oh, this and all that, like all these things that are unhealthy. And really the act of sex is not a small thing. It's not just a scratch that needs to be itched. And if you have that education, and if that is how you use sex, this is the problem. This is a problem because it's not for that. So the final part, the warm down, I feel like it's just as important, where you can just get to process, you get to be together, you get to just be there and lay there, right? Because I guess the part one, you're trying to get something, you're excited, you have a goal, right? And so then you have a process that's going on. And whereas the part three is there is no goal. It is just like being there, like just collapsing together and having this moment and having this conversation, or having this like intimate touch and intimate love, I guess, exchanging of love. And in part one, you're teasing the love, and you're like, do you want my love? And then part two is like you're fully exchanging the love, and then part three is like you're playing with it, or just like caressing it, or just like looking at it at least looking at it, right? And just going, oh, isn't that whatever to do. Then you may go your separate ways. I'm a bit more attached than going my separate ways, because I think I'd rather be attached at the hip with my partner. Not really, because actually, I think it's just I don't mind being attached, I don't mind being detached. But if you're too detached, then I don't like that. I 100% don't like that, too detached, but that's my personal preference. Anyway, yeah, so I guess with saying all of that, I just feel like sexual experiences are really important. They're really beautiful, they're really strong, and I feel like we should treat it as such. Meaning we have to really have these conversations and really be transparent about it, what it is that is happening, what it is that you expect, and what it is that you should experience when you're having sex. So if you've not had sex before, take your time, get to know yourself first. If you're already experiencing sex, well done. If you're experiencing, you don't like it, I think you should treat it as if you've never had sex before, and go through that process of learning your body and learning yourself, and then don't rush into it. And obviously if your body's calling you to rush into it, then that probably means then that hopefully you're gonna have that miraculous like bang where it just fits perfectly, and that's great. But if your body calls you to do something and then it doesn't fit and it goes horribly wrong, don't be discouraged, because there's always a next time. And actually the end goal is to find a way to always have a beautiful sexual experience, which is completely possible for all people. I never thought I'd be able to find the orgasm. I didn't even understand what I was looking for, and then I did one day and I found it, and it's like, okay, everything's possible, I guess. So everything is possible, so might as well experience sex in a beautiful way, and not in this like cheap trashy way that we might be mostly experiencing in life, which is bang 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 and I don't know what that was. That was like the fake orgasm for the woman, because that's what women do. They just fake it, and really they should be really living the reality of it. And it begins with conversation. So I hope you've enjoyed this talk, and I shall be back with another one. So until next time, take care of yourselves. Bye.